Thank you for that introduction. So I'm Kim Næss. I am from Hitachi Vantara. And with me on stage, I have my good friend.
I'm Lars Wriedt. I'm the CTO in Europe for analytics in DXC technology. And I will talk to you about a couple of projects we have done with the tool from Kim's department.
Okay, so first off, the agenda today is that we will be talking a little bit about the importance of analytics when you're doing digital transformations. And there was somebody who... So it's Java code. I try to do it a little bit geeky. Digital transformation use case with DXC and how Hitachi Vantara and our Pentaho platform is empowering digital transformation. So we're going to be looking at those three aspects. Oh, I have this clicker. I can avoid the lights a little bit, so I can see you. Oh, thanks. So first off, the electric light bulb. When they invented that one, that was not some guy who said that, well, the candle, it can burn brighter, it can be bigger, it can be smaller. It wasn't an evolution, it was a disruption. It was a disruption in the 1800s. And funnily enough, with the electric light bulb, it also sparked, I'd like to call the industrialized world and the capitalistic world as I see it. Because the first light bulbs they created, they were having threads the size of this, and they never broke. And the guys started making light bulbs, understood that, well, if we keep making light bulbs that never break, they lasted 100, 200, 300 years. Well, we're out of business one day. So they had to start creating things that actually wore down. And today, and especially in software, well, you have to update every year, right? I would say a lot of software that was created 20 years ago is still really good today, but that's another matter. So with Hitachi, though, my first memory of Hitachi, how many had one of those or wanted one of those or is old enough to remember? Still, we do make TVs, hi-fi stereos, components, etc. And that's part of Hitachi. But Hitachi is actually much older than that. It's about 130 years old or something. And we created electrical engines and other engines more than 100 years ago. Today, we are more than 370,000 employees, and we create a lot of things, including trains. And to do digital transformation with something like trains is pretty hard. So those trains are actually built with IoT sensors. So we're building the trains, we're building them with IoT sensors, and we're using Pentaho as a data integration platform to collect data whilst the train is moving, to do predictive maintenance on the trains, and to have updated data sets on how the brakes are performing, the doors are closing, etc., etc. In order for us to deliver, and this is quite cool, it's trains as a service. So these in England, if they're not on time, and if they're not on running, Hitachi doesn't get paid. That's one of the most expensive as-a-service offerings I've ever heard of. I'm also interested in other stuff. So robotics, this is Boston Robotics Atlas robot. Pretty sure most of you have seen him before. Hitachi also does robotics. And another fan of mine, or sorry, I'm a fan of him, Elon Musk, autonomous driving, in a way he wants to accelerate mobility with clean energy. Hitachi is one of the largest energy producers in the world. We recently also bought ABB. So I think we're one of the largest energy or the grid producers in the world as well. And we also do autonomous driving. So we're really supporting his mission as well. So, with regards to doing a digital transformation and understanding your data within your company, we see today that a lot of the problem you have is that transferring IoT data or unstructured data is something that is a problem when getting into Hadoop. Because you do have a lot of these engineers, ETL engineers, data engineers, who's good at getting data into data warehouses, are good at SQL. But they're not so good at writing Hadoop or Java code. It's another skill set. And using Pig and Flume and Scoop, etc. So there's a skill gap that we're seeing. And we're also seeing that IT is still heavily involved. The self-service analytics, it's still not 100% there. The unstructured data, you still have a lot of those data swamps where you're just dumping your data into your Hadoop environment and you're not thinking more about it. perhaps you should look at those data warehouse strategies, master data management strategies, and adopt them to your Hadoop environment. And you also have the Pareto rule, 80% of the work done while having an analytics project. I was recently just talking to somebody who came over to my booth who said the same thing. I spent too much of my time as a front-end developer actually having to do data engineering myself, trying to get the data sets up to a certain level of data quality that I need to in order to present it as actual numbers, etc., etc., etc. So what's different with Hitachi? So a lot of the times you will have companies who's just trying to sell you a product. And here's the product. We can either run it for you or you can try to use it yourself. What we want to do within Hitachi is that we are co-creating with you. And Hitachi is one of the companies, I think it's only General Electric in the world, who manufactures, produces, and does more things than Hitachi. Everything from medical equipment, MRIs, X-rays, etc., to trains, to TVs, to you name it, we build it. So we have engineers who really know everybody's business, more or less. And we can bring them in when we're co-creating with you. So we both know technology, but we can also help you understand your business. And that's one of the reasons why Gartner thinks that Hitachi is a leader in industrialized IoT. The co-creation process, and I won't spend too much time on this, is out of our framework for how we actually engage. So you engage with a business analyst from our team, who then does a problem definition. We have data scientists in our teams who helps you build a proof of concept. We need to make sure that it's data there, and we need to make sure that we can support the answers with mathematical algorithms. And creating a solution developer, and then validating it at the end. And you can have a lot of iterations on it and a lot of different questions that you need to have answered as well. So this is something that we want to do and how we engage with our customers. And a lot of our processes is really deep down into understanding your business before we can tell you how the technology can actually help you. And with that, I will hand it over to Lars, who will tell you a little bit more about how they have implemented Pentaho.
Thank you, Kim. So I am from DXC Technology, and DXC Technology is the largest system integrator in the world that is technology independent. We engage with our clients in digital transformation projects, and digital transformation, of course, has a lot to do about data. Digital is data. Digital means managing data, analyzing data, and putting the result of that analysis back into the business process. Being technology independent and a system integrator, we use tools provided by our partners. And one of our strategic partners here is exactly Hitachi. And I'm going to show you two projects where we have used Pentaho to implement a digital transformation solution. One of them is an English bank. They were a very traditional bank, and they had some desires to move away from doing business like they did 15 years ago to a more digital-enabled way of looking at their clients and looking at their processes. In this case, it was the clients we looked at. They were very product-centric. They had a savings account, they have a loan account, and they were very siloed, both in their processes as well as how they talk to clients. They wanted to have one customer approach, one way to serve customers, one way to sell to customers, and to do that, they needed to get the data about the customers together, which they didn't have. Everything was in silos. We have been working with this bank for quite a while, and they challenged us and said, well, we do want to do some things. We want to get the data together. We want to move to cloud, where they were not present at the time. And we want to analyze the data so we can better understand our clients. They had some possible solutions in mind: NIFI, Talent, Pentaho, and Data States, and they had a set of evaluation criteria. And as DXC, we helped them evaluate these four options against their own evaluation criteria. We scored them, and we recommended Pentaho as the best solution for what they wanted to do here. And now we have implemented it. We have stood up the systems on the Amazon cloud, and we are now analyzing the data more and more to give more back to the business. Where we use Pentaho is to capture the information from different source systems, from databases, from ingesting files, to receive messages through APIs, and importing log files from customer applications, and store that in the appropriate data storage on Amazon. So if we move it into Amazon, where it's stored in S3 or RDS, or the appropriate technology for that kind of data. We do that in batch and we do that in streaming. It's a very smooth process now. Interestingly enough, we are also using Pentaho to expose APIs to consuming applications. Of course, we use a lot of Amazon-based tools to do the analysis, to do the data science, to do the data integration. Pentaho delivers quality information into that process. We use the Amazon tools to actually build the applications. But we also use Pentaho on the consuming side to expose APIs to customer applications that can get to the data that we have assembled there. It's actually working pretty well now. It's running. We have the data there. And as I said, we are now into the stages where we are refining the analysis, refining the views of the customer that we can give back to the business, both in terms of reports, in terms of the APIs for applications to call when they need more information about the clients. So that's one project where we used the good tool from our good partner. Another one is a little different place. This is an industrial manufacturer of military equipment in UK. They needed to modernize their IT infrastructure, and they could not go to cloud because, well, security and military needs to be on the ground. In doing that, we moved the whole IT infrastructure to a new platform, and we use Pentaho to manage the data and where it is stored in this infrastructure. So we import information about the data as it lands, the file systems, and we look for data that are not used, data that are placed at the wrong storage layer, data where the data type says it should go here, but it ended up here, so something is wrong and we have to correct that. So that's step one, that is to manage the data as it is processed and stored in the IT infrastructure. Step two is to look broader on the IT infrastructure. We are going to import log files. We are going to import events from the whole infrastructure, being networks, servers, storage, whatever equipment they have. And on top of producing reports, we will also look at system utilization. Is it efficient? Is it balanced? Capacity planning, billing, but also monitoring actively as things happen and generate alerts. This is totally Pentaho, end to end. We use Pentaho for the ingestion, for storing the data, and for reporting the data, and again generating alerts. Another example for where we have used Pentaho, but in a different space, more technology. Being technology independent, we have to have a structured way of working. And we have what we call our reference architecture for building these kind of systems. And having Hitachi as a strategic partner, of course we know how to position their products, what they're good at, where they may have gaps still, into our architecture, so we know quicker and more safe when we go to our clients, what can it do and what can it not do? Where does it fit, where doesn't it fit, where do we need to complement it? As in the bank, the analytical tools did not come from Hitachi, the data quality, the data movement came from Hitachi. On the military equipment manufacturer, yes, we use Pentaho all over the place because it fitted into all the boxes in that case. Okay, so we know how to work with you guys. Thank you, Tim. Back to you.
Thank you, Lars, and really grateful for that as well. It is important to have those kind of partners who actually implement and can work with our technology with our customers as well, because we can't do everything. We're kind of, I think we have about 10 minutes left, with including questions. So I forgot to say in the beginning, you can ask questions while we're speaking as well. You don't have to wait till the end. We structured our talk so that we're supposed to have 10 minutes more now. before we're finished. So what is our platform? How can we actually help? We have our booth over at the entrance as well, and we can talk a lot about other use cases as well, use cases that is closer to your business if you want. We have a lot of different demos that we can show as well at the stand. So please come and visit us there. And we also have a workshop later on today, and we also have a debate on machine learning, I think in about an hour or so at the Octagon stage, because we brought one of our data scientists to this place. So what Pentaho is all about is that we want to bridge that gap between the guys who are business analysts and data scientists and the ones who are data engineers. Because when it is a problem today that we have 80% of the work being done in order to get data in front of the guys who are making a decision, you need to be able to understand what is happening in the data engineering space. And to then have one tool where everybody from a data scientist or business analyst, and I was recently just speaking to one who was have utilized Pentaho a little bit before because he thought it was easy to get up to a certain level with, because it's a drag and drop interface. He was able to do a lot of the jobs creating the data sets and not having to wait for the data engineers, the ETL engineers, to build the data pipelines. He was bypassing the queue. So he was getting the data faster because he was actually starting to use Pentaho instead. If you implement it as a platform, you will be able to have collaboration across the teams. So having all of them work in the same place enables you to have administration, security, lineage, which we should talk more about, because especially within GDPR, knowing what happens to your data from the origin of the source to the transformations to the output is really important. You need to know what has happened to it. To monitoring and automation, everything in one platform instead of having separate tools to doing it. So what does it look like? First and foremost, it's a drag and drop interface. Pre-built transformation steps from almost any kind of source you can think of, from public clouds to all of the normal clouds, input sources you can think about, to all kinds of transformations and validation, statistics, data mining, big data, and including machine learning. Everything pre-built in a wizard-driven interface that you just put in the parameters that you think is important. And when dragging and dropping everything onto a canvas, you can see what is happening. And also importantly, with a lot of the things happening, moving the data to a front-end tool in order to see what is really, how the data is looking, sometimes it's just a waste of time. Because I've been in so many projects where you're actually moving the data to the front end and it's saying, oh, I have a lot of nulls, I have a lot of duplicates, the data quality isn't there. The ability to then do a visual analysis of the data when you're doing data integration is the ability to actually then have a better data quality when you deliver it to the business analyst. So that saves a lot of time. This is an example of what a data pipeline looks like within Pentaho. And that data pipeline up there is built for big data. So you can see it's a map-reduce input, splitting some fields, calculating some date values, extracting some area codes, etc., etc., etc. You can mostly understand what it's doing because you can read and you can see it's a visual representation of the steps that's happening to the data. The example below, and I do a little bit of coding still, but I'm not proficient anymore. It's a little bit like my German. I'm forgetting it because I'm not using it. That's the same with my coding skills. But the example of the Hadoop code here for doing the exact same job, this is not something you want to have documented or showing to your business analyst of what your data pipeline looks like. That's just confusing. You want to bridge the gap between the different people in your organization so that they understand what you're doing and you can show it to them. And that is what Pentaho enables you. And also, when you build something, you can run it both on big data environments, you can run it on ETL and data warehouses. So it's more or less code once and run it on several different engines, as you can see here. So we have the ability to run the code both on Pentaho's Kettle engine, which is a Java engine, and you can run it on Spark. You can also run it on Hadoop MapReduce, Flink, and in the future even more engines. The flexibility of this is that when you build something once, you don't have to build it again to execute it somewhere else. So if your data changes, so for instance, Pentaho's Kettle engine fires up in seconds, so it's really, really fast. So it's really good for smaller transformations and transformations that have to happen in a sequence. While Spark is really good at parallel processing, large batches of data. So if you move from Pentaho Cattle to Spark, that's fine. You already did that. It's only the massive amount of data that has changed. You don't have to redevelop your ETL data pipeline once more. So code once, run it on several different engines. This is also something that is, we have a bank in the UK, another bank, one of the even bigger banks than that. They had 1,800 data pipelines. Now, that is a lot of jobs to monitor, to troubleshoot, etc. They had a lot of people working on it. And when you start off with one data pipeline, some ingest procedures and then outputting it somewhere, it's kind of easy. But when you get up to 1,800 or more in that space, it's a lot. And you have a lot of issues with jobs failing and monitoring them and then trying to troubleshoot it. So what Pentaho is doing, and which is pretty unique, is that we have a metadata-driven approach to doing data pipelines. So that bank saved millions of pounds a year on data engineering. Millions of pounds. By removing 1,794 of those data pipelines. They were going from 1,800 data pipelines to 6. Because of a template-driven approach to doing ETL. The best example I can have, and I always use this, is a car dealership. So for instance, Mercedes-Benz, they sell their cars all over Europe or all over the world. They have their static models, the B model, the C, the Geländewagen, etc., etc., right? All of those are static. And the engines, the 200, the 300, etc., right? All those are static, but they have different dealers. So they need to create some way of creating an overview of the sales from all of the dealers. But instead of having one data pipeline for every dealer, they can have one data pipeline collecting all of the data, but just having the metadata of every dealer fed in as you start off the transformation. So instead of having a couple of hundred dealers or more in Europe, they can have one, as an example. Multi-cloud. I used to work 5 years with Oracle before I came here. It's never a lock-in to go to Oracle or Amazon or Google or Azure or wherever. But the tools of all of these companies, Oracle Data Integration, Amazon Glue, Microsoft SSIS or Azure Data Factory, those tools are really good at getting data into the platform, into their platforms. Their incentive isn't to get data out of their platform. Whilst we are agnostic, we don't care, we want to help you in a multi-cloud strategy.
Kim?
Yeah.
Do we want to have a question or two?
Are there any questions? Please, just fire away. This is an example of what we do within, so we have an analytics platform in the front end as well. So we do analytics as well, not only the data integration. And I think that was my last slide. That is just our roadmap. That can just stay up there. If you want to come and discuss either use cases, how we implement the technology, what our roadmap looks like, or other features, and how we maybe can fit into your organization, please come and see us at our booth. We're next to the machine learning stage, the M1 or something, I think, next to the entrance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.